So what we do is, you know, we'll help produce events for charities, but we'll also try to help them identify who are celebrities that would be great people to help endorse what they do. You have to start small. You just have to start. And if you don't start small or start at all, it'll never get done. And it's just always stuck with me that people have these grandiose ideas and they're still in grandiose 10, 15 years later.
My guest today is Prabhat Gautam, and he is most definitely a world changer. Rather than starting a new organization, he brings his efforts and energy to helping the people and organizations already doing so much good in the world and making so many positive changes. And he helps those organizations flourish. And one of the ways he does that is to connect celebrities and social media influencers with organizations who can benefit from having light shined on their efforts. He does a number of things, though. He's also the founder of Positive Television. He's a podcaster, a fundraiser, and he is frequently a volunteer. He's what I call a super connector, and I think you'll really enjoy being inspired by his infectious energy. So please, if you would, click on the subscribe button below. That would help me out. And enjoy this conversation between myself and Prabhat Gautam.
Yeah.
Welcome to How We Change the World podcast. Can't imagine anybody more appropriate to be speaking to on such a subject. Gosh, I'm just thinking, like, we've only met each other a few, maybe a handful of times over the last few years. But I had no idea much about you until we ran into each other a few weeks ago, and really, I heard all these wonderful things, but I never knew the details of what you do, and I was kind of blown away by it all. So I'm really appreciative that you're here, and I'm excited to hear more about what you've been doing over these last, I don't know, your whole life, basically. I mean,
Well, thank you. And I'm excited about, not just the conversation today, but everything that comes after these conversations with us collaborating on other things, and also the people that are listeners that, that I'll bring to the table, that you'll work with, and people that that I'll work with, and just so much good will come out of it. So that's what's so exciting with these opportunities.
Yeah. That's the whole reason that I was saying it's so great to have you as one of the first guests, for a couple of reasons. One is your magic as a super connector. Like, that is your sweet spot, right? That's what you do to change the world, is you connect people, but you have this way of just seeing, different people and what their interests are and what their needs are, and then you pull it all together. And that's what you started doing already. We barely got the podcast started, and that's where your mind is at. So you can't take a step without that mindset, it would appear.
Yeah, and it's just exciting because when I look back, it's all really started in childhood. You have a friend that's like, "Oh, my favorite show is this," and you're like, "Oh, these are the 7 times it airs on TV. Here's a list for you." Like, just figuring out, how to make people's lives easier. But so much of that is really connecting people that are way more expert than me in a million areas, and then get those two people in the room together, and then get out of the way.
Well, that's an interesting thought that you just brought up, or observation, because I always wonder when I see people who are really working hard to change the world, that old question, is it nature or nurture? Is it because of events that have happened to you in your life that propelled you to do things, or is this just how you are? And I think in your case, just a little bit that I know about your life, it's a little of both, right? I mean, it's a lot of both, frankly. Yeah. So actually, maybe before we get into let's talk a little bit about your backstory and where you remember starting to take action. I know one thing you said is, like, an 8-year-old, you became a vegetarian, or at least tried to. I don't know how well it worked. Is that your first time you said, I'm going to do something to make a difference in the world?
Yeah, I think I was 5th grade, and just learning that chinchillas were killed for, chinchilla coats, and it just bothered me so much. And I thought, like, these little animals are killed for clothing, and I didn't even obviously put together that other animals are killed for food, but the idea that, like, it just seems so vain and so, like, completely unnecessary. And then, what do you do as a child?
Right.
Usually not a lot. You think about it, but you're limited by what your parents are going to let you do or not do. And I
Sure.
just remember then from there going to friends' houses, and if somebody's eating chicken or making chicken, you don't want to eat it, then you eat it, and you don't. And there's just something that's just said, why am I participating in, you know, another being killed? And I think it just started a process. And then
Mm,
obviously once you have more control, and I think for me it's middle school, high school, where you can really, determine what are you eating. And then yeah, but I think what you said is totally right. It all started consciously in fifth grade, learning about chinchillas killed for fur. Like
interesting.
that's the moment where I was like, this is wrong. How do you stop it? And many years later, I got to be part of the West Hollywood Fur Ban, which is the first city in the country that banned the sale of fur. And I don't think that's really coincidental. I think like there's a
No.
seed that gets planted at a young age, and
Yeah.
then you just know you want to fix that, and then you're able to do something, at whatever level you're able to do it at. So
Yeah. Well, there's so many
yeah,
things as a kid you don't have control over, and you just wish you did, but somehow you put it away and file it away and do what you can. So, but I
yeah,
think what I did learn about you recently was that you lost your father. That was sort of the next big thing when you were 16.
16. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And he was young, 40
Yeah,
something.
49 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that
that's a
kind
huge moment, because I think when you're young, being naive is such a good thing, and just believing everything's going to work out perfectly. And,
yeah.
like there's just this idea of, you know, your parents will see all your big moments, right? Your wedding, your whatever, you're
Graduation,
starting your
everything.
company, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like for the
Yeah.
people that are actors, like they're getting an Oscar, or musicians getting a Grammy, or
Yeah.
or the Nobel Peace Prize, whatever the thing is that you aspire to want to,
Right.
publicly receive. You think they'll be there for all that, and when that doesn't happen, it shakes your world, and you just realize, wow, you can't control the ending of things.
How did that event? Like, what did you do after that? Because I know you have some of the places where you volunteered or maybe worked. I don't know. Have been to do with preventable death. Like a lot of the volunteering and a lot of the work you've done has been helping people prevent unnecessary or untimely or early deaths. Is
Yeah,
that what happened when he passed away? And what did you do
yeah, I think you're
first?
right. Like, I think often, right, people are drawn to causes that affect them directly, right? Like, if somebody is
Sure.
an advocate for cancer, it's because they either had it or somebody that they're close to had it, and
Yeah. Helps people
often
cope also
passed,
with
right?
losses.
And it's
Yeah.
probably a
Gives
way
them
to
some
like
control.
save others from the same, trauma
Right.
that you went through. So I think
Sure.
that's probably a lot of it. For me, I was a junior in high school. I think just seeing, everybody around you, I have an older sister, younger brothers, I have my mom, and just see how they're all dealing. My father's brother, my uncle, he's the first one that came from India to the United States. And for, him
Oh,
to lose his younger brother, like, and obviously for
pretty
me to
tough.
lose a parent is devastating as well. But I think more than anything, I went into how do you make sure everybody else is okay mode. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really properly grieve for, I think, for at least probably 6 7 years, because I think I was
Wow.
just in a place of, okay, well, what do we do now? and
Yeah.
and my uncle really said, and he's just, such a wonderful person and a great example of, what people should be in your family. He said, I want you guys to live, as close to us as you can, move into the same town.
Mm.
My sister was already in college at the University of Oklahoma. My uncle lived in Norman, and he said, well, you guys should move
Oh.
there. And it really, I think, helped so much, because, that this person and, his family, they're going to check in on you. And obviously, we had no preparation for what it's like to lose somebody. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the immediate thing that happened. And I think the next thing that I think happened was, that summer, we had one remaining grandparent. And, now that I'd lost a parent, I have one parent and one grandparent left. So I really
Mm.
pushed my mom to say, let's go to India for us all to see
Oh,
my
really?
mom's. I'm supposed to see my father's mother. So,
Uh
so
huh.
that's the last person from my father's side. And then, both of my mother's parents had passed. So we went and saw my grandmother. And yeah, it's the first time we went to India. And I remember going and seeing children on the street asking for money. And it just really made me sad. At
Wow.
that point, a few months had passed. I turned 17 at that point. And you're just really sad. And you think, well, why are these kids asking for money? And then my mom said, their parents put them up to it. And, it's a way to like help the family sustain themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many layers of realizing this is real poverty. This isn't like, and obviously everything people go through is sad, and somebody not being able to pay their rent is obviously devastating and depressing. But in this case, you're dealing with people, they don't have food to eat. They're living on the street. So, and their children. And I'd never seen that. Like, I never, there certainly were homeless people in Oklahoma where I grew up. I just never saw them. I went to school and came back home and just was never exposed to anybody homeless. So I didn't know what that looked like. I'd never thought about it. So seeing that in another country, I think really opened up my eyes.
But what was the first thing that you did then as a result of your father's death and this trip to India where you saw such poverty? Because I know you actually, even before that, I know you donated bone marrow to someone. I don't know, this girl, she had leukemia. I don't know what your relationship to her was. But how old were you then? Were you older?
I was 24 when that happened. So and there is the common thread of, so I switched to new high school. Then when I started college, I was interning at a college cable access station. And then, we're doing a show where musicians kind of get their 50 minutes of fame. They come and perform. And I learned a story about a girl named Alyssa Miller. And Alyssa was a beauty pageant contestant, and she died in a car accident. But her big cause was organ donation. And once I learned that, I said to my co-host, "We're going to do PSAs about organ donation." He said, "That has nothing to do with our show. Our show's about music." And I said, "It doesn't matter. I've learned Alyssa's story. We're doing it." So I asked the Oklahoma Blood Institute sent us PSAs on blood, organ, and bone marrow donation. So we started running these PSAs at the beginning or end of every episode. And then one day I thought, well, why am I not signed up to be an organ donor? At this point, I'm 19 years old and doing the show. And then forward 5 years, and they reach out, then at some point I signed up to the National Marrow Donor Registry. And at age 24, I get contacted to say that I'm a marrow match. But as what you said is, it's all, if my father doesn't pass, when I'm 16, I don't think about how do you prevent preventable death. If I don't learn about Alyssa Miller's story and this like beautiful person who her whole mission is she would speak about, organ donation at these, beauty pageant contests. And I got to meet Alyssa's friend, Corby Wells. And then Corby put me in touch with Alyssa's mom. And I said after I was a bone marrow donor, I said to Alyssa's mom, I only became a marrow donor because of your daughter. Like, your daughter's passing is what got me on the next journey, which is to get the PSAs about organ donation. And then you just see, when you take, like, whatever they say, the 1,000-foot view from away, like, you see how it's all connected. And then when I came to LA, because I wanted to really work on helping charities and causes, because I knew that was something I was passionate about. In LA, it's obviously a major media mecca. And I thought, if you're going to make change, if you cause a little ripple to do good, the ripple is a giant ocean, because you're in Los Angeles or New York or, Chicago, DC, San Francisco. There's a few cities where it can happen at a larger scale. I think Denver, Austin, Portland are becoming, those new cities now where you're seeing it happen.
They're headed in that direction, but still, what's in LA and New York, it's, it is a lot of action. And you're right, because of the person that you are and how you connect people, that it's much easier, I think, for you to make change while you're there. So then what happened? So when I think when we spoke recently, you said Mercy for Animals was the first organization that you joined. I don't know if that's accurate or not. Or the first one that you helped.
So it was the first one where I did their whole big gala for them. So, I'd helped on smaller levels with other charities like Gentle Barn and Humane Society, PETA, Animal Acres, but Mercy for Animals, like, to put the entire gala fundraiser together. And my friend Susan Weingartner and I put that event together. And that was really the launch of them opening their LA office. And then, that's happened multiple times since, where I've got to do that for other charities. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Mercy for Animals a little bit, just to get into the specifics of one, so we can get more traction. Do you want to describe, because I'm familiar with Mercy for Animals just coincidentally, because they were in the book that I wrote in 2016. One person acted, and Ricky co-wrote with me, my son, and Nathan Runkle, who is now Milo, I believe. I don't know if it's Milo or Milo. Yeah. Milo Runkle, yeah. So, his story is similar to yours because he became a vegetarian. You know, I heard his full story when he was so young. Same thing, 7 or 8, and had to watch his uncles in as far as like hunting and, you know, taking the fur off animals. I can't think what the term is, but you know, it was just so painful for him, and he kind of had to stuff it a little bit for a few years until he was able to make an organization. And then at a very young age he did, and it's just interesting that you're one of the first ones who came in and helped him. So, and we're going to talk about first followers and early helpers in just a second, but tell us just a minute about Mercy for Animals. Like what was the condition of that organization? Like how small was it?
So they had a lot of satellite organizations, satellite offices for the organization at the time.
Oh,
they were, somebody in their apartment, or like, it was really small.
Yeah.
But they had multiple people all over the country, and they, Milo at the time, Nathan was going to move to Los Angeles, and they were looking to, open an office here. And I had, helped an organization before called Compassion for Killing do the same thing. So I, had some of that experience, and the idea was, okay, this group is, they have veg starter guides. They, were leafleting. They're giving out vegan food at festivals or in local communities. They've done a lot of work that's, anti factory farming and just raising awareness about that, undercover investigation work. So they're a group that people knew they were good and they existed, but they really hadn't had that giant national presence. I think they'd started to, but, obviously once you come to a major media place, you can just kickstart that to a whole nother level. So when Susan and I did that event for them, Bob Barker was there, and, he made a significant donation, and
who is a huge animal rights activist and has been.
And he's amazing, life, right? Yeah, Bob Barker's been so amazing with what he does. So just putting that event together, and because, I'd been here for so long and had done that, for so many organizations, and, I'd probably done several hundred events at that point. But this was like A to Z, do the entire event, Susan and I. So we're inviting all the donors, all the celebrities, all the volunteers, getting food donated, auction items donated, and then, working with the Mercy for Animals staff. But because they're not in Los Angeles, they don't really have the infrastructure to, they don't have the local contacts. So they might have a few, but they don't have all of them. And Susan just, such a gem to work with, and being able to like put that whole thing together, and then seeing that, they open an office, they grow, they expand, and being able to be there.
So they made a lot of money at that gala, obviously raised a lot of money.
They did. And as people remember, Bob Barker leaves, and then he comes back, he said, "Oh, I forgot something." He hands a check for $500,000 and said, "Oh, I forgot something." And we never knew, did he do that on purpose, or did he legitimately just forget to leave his check for $500,000? And if he, regardless. But it was a great little scene, and then obviously everybody applauded. Yeah. He said, "Okay, bye." It was the ultimate like mic drop moment where he's like, "Okay, I'm out. I just thought, I forgot to drop off some mail to you guys. Here's a little check for $500,000.
That's so classic.
But that was just such an exciting moment, and obviously I love the work that they've done, and I think more than anything, what I have learned in the animal, advocacy movement is organizations grow and change and evolve, and I just try to stay to a place where there's going to be 98% of what they do that you love, and there's probably going to be 1 or 2% you wish organizations did differently. And you see this a lot with PETA, Humane Society. Some people think it's about Mercy for Animals or whatever the charity is. And I just say, work with them where you can work with them, and where you don't agree with them, have a conversation with people within the organization of how you think they could do better at whatever you think should be done better. And then maybe they'll make those changes, or maybe they won't. But just being upset with organizations, I just think it's highly detrimental. And we see, you see it a lot in different social justice. I mean, you see it in politics. It's
everywhere. It's everywhere. And you're never going to agree 100% with anybody. And so it's one of the problems we have in our country right now, that nobody wants to talk to anybody if they're even a little bit, if you're not vegan enough, you're not activist enough. But that experience of you going to LA, going to LA and then working for Mercy for Animals, it's really the exact example that we can use to talk about the first follower. And even though you weren't his first follower,
and we didn't work for him. Susan and I were just volunteers.
Right.
That
No.
helped,
Right.
We just so believed in it.
But the power that comes from adding your talents and your abilities and your interest and your passion and everything that's needed to something that's already starting to get off the ground is so necessary, because we're talking on the show a lot about how people change the world, and it's often like how I built this, how did I start this company, how did I start this organization, but really nothing happens if there's one person, if there's just one person doing it, or their cousin and their sister, somebody's helping them out. And when you can go in and bring all that passion to somebody who's got the idea and the organization starting a little bit, and you bring it to it, it's just like that 500,000. What did that do for Mercy for Animals? I mean, whether that was going to ever come a different way or not, you'll never know. But it came because you and Susan, I think you said, right? Susan Weiner, so that you put together this thing and you brought your talents.
It's funny when you said, because I had helped an organization called Vegan Outreach do a fundraiser. I helped them get food donated, invited the donors. They raised $25,000 at this event, and from the money they raised, it allowed two activists to go across the country, meet with donors. The donors they met with ended up funding Vegan Outreach in India. So the $25,000 led to vegan outreach doing outreach in India.
Another country.
And you think about it, it's that whole ripple. Like, you need the first $5 to turn into 1,000, to turn into 10,000, to turn into hiring a staff. But without the first 5 or 10, it just doesn't happen. So, and that's why I tell people all the time, start your project, go to your friends and family to have them help financially support at whatever level they can. And if it's $200, it's $200. It's $200 more than you had before you started. And then take that $200.
That's absolutely right.
And then, hire a social media person to help you promote the project online, and then build your Kickstarter. And then it's really just seeing the ripple. And too often people think, when I've been involved with museums, my good friend Connie Mendel started the Museum of Tolerance, and she said, you have to start small. You just have to start. And if you don't start small or start at all, it'll never get done. And it's just always stuck with me that people have these grandiose ideas, and they're still in grandiose 10, 15 years later, because they were unwilling to work with other people. But I have to it's my time to criticize Debbie for all the people out there. Debbie is terrible. Let me throw this out there. Terrible about plugging herself. She wrote an amazing book about the first follower, which I'm excited we're going to talk about, because you and I, in one of our early conversations, talked about how not every person changes the world in a big, profound way. They might inspire somebody that inspires somebody, but your whole book and your whole thought that you have said in a way nobody else I'd ever met had said, of the first follower is the key person. It just so resonated with me. Because in acting, they teach people the yes and principle, that when people are doing improv, when people are pitching an idea for a business or a nonprofit, somebody's like, oh, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. They need to hear yes, and let's take it. Let's expand it. Yes, and what else can we do? Yeah. But they need the yes. The and the but are especially but or no, are just, it stops momentum. But the yes and people need it. And I feel like I try to be that for people. And I love, what you're doing with your book, and obviously now what you're doing with your podcast, the whole idea of people to feel like they're supported and hearing, yes, great idea. And this is what I can do to help you further along. I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to be your assistant. I'm not going to intern.
Or maybe you are, or maybe that is what you're
or maybe I am. Or maybe I just have 3 good ideas and introduce you to the key 5 people. And then those people are going to do 1,000,000 times better than I would have done anyway, because they understand the cause and they're more passionate about it.
The thing, just a slight correction, because I really, I did write about it, and the book is one person acted and everything changed. But the idea of the first follower, really, it wasn't mine. I saw a TED Talk one time, and it wasn't the actual TED Talk. It was just a short little 3 or 4 minute video. And I loved this idea, and it's about the person who's promoting the idea of the first follower, or the importance of the first follower. He gives this example, and it's just shows this video behind him of a guy, a lot of people standing on a hillside, hundreds of young, like 20 something people, and they're kind of at a concert. Can't really tell the context, but one of the guys stands up and just starts dancing by himself, and he's dancing alone by himself. And then eventually one other guy comes over and he starts dancing with him. And as they're dancing together, there's like so many little lessons in this thing to replicate like an organization, because the founder, the leader in this case, welcomes him in as an equal. So they're dancing together and they're having a good time. And slowly, more and more, 1, 2, maybe 3 people slowly join, and now there's 5 of them dancing. And it's not about the founder and it's not about the follower. It's now about what they're doing. It shifts, and that the focus is on what they're producing, fun in this case. But the followers who come, they're not emulating the leader; they're emulating the first follower. That's what they're doing, and pretty soon, in any kind of powerful organization with momentum, pretty soon it's harder to not join than to join. You're the outcast if you don't join. So that equilibrium kind of shifts from you're hesitant to you're hesitant not to. And there's just so much power in, otherwise this one person who's a leader and has great ideas but doesn't know how to motivate people, they're just one nut standing out there doing something by themselves until there's someone following them and bringing the passion, bringing the energy. So we did start speaking about that when we ran into each other, because it just seemed like that is so often what you do. And I really want people to understand that the value of that, of just saying, I'm here for you for however long or whatever. It changes it all. One person cannot make that much of a difference. You can make a difference, but not an incredible difference by yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's such a great visual of now everybody's dancing.
Actually, I'll put that in the show notes, because I think if you see it, for some reason, when you see something and even though it's just people dancing on a hillside, it really drives
what
home
I found
the
too is
volunteerism.
I have a good friend, Greta Hunter. She started a vegan food bank, and just the number of people that I reached out to about her needing volunteers. And so, on the third Thursday of the month, they give out food. But you have these volunteers who will come on Wednesday, where they're sorting the produce and the items, and they're not there on Thursday. Like, they're not able to come Thursday. So there's no photos. There's no person saying thank you. They're just doing it because they're part of a movement that's bigger than themselves. And when you see that, you just realize people want to be of service. They just want to know how can I be of service, and tell me how I can do it, and tell me exactly what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then we said to them, you only need to be there for 2 hours. End up being 4 hours, and nobody's complaining. But if they're on the clock and working an hour in, they'd be like, well, can I get out of here? I don't care that you're paying me.
When's my break? Yeah.
When's my smoke break? And I don't even smoke. But
would you consider yourself an extrovert?
What's so funny is
that part of
I am, but I'm also an intense introvert. So it's a funny way on both. If I spend 10 days in a row being out at events, I'm going to need 4 days of just being at home, and I'll still be on the phone. I'll still work, but I need a lot of just downtime.
Yeah. That's exactly how I am. I'm like 50-50. But the reason I'm asking is because I think that's what really keeps people from joining or starting something. They have the idea, the passion, the knowledge, and they really want to do something. And I think when you move, for example, you're so embedded now in the culture in LA. You in that community. People, everyone knows you. And it started because you were able to go out maybe one little volunteer opportunity at a time. I'm not sure, but what does it take? How can somebody who doesn't have that outgoing, I want to go start something kind of personality, how do they start? Where do they find? Let's say they want to work on the environment. So many people want to work on the environment. But where? How do you start? What would you suggest to someone like that?
The most powerful thing on social media that people sometimes overlook is the groups are already there. If you look at Facebook, Instagram, and then Meetup, you can find a group that wants to do beach cleanups. You just, whatever area you're in, if it's not a beach cleanup, it's a park cleanup. And if there isn't somebody doing it, well, then you go start it. And then it's just you and 2 people, or you wait till there's enough people before you start it. So I always say, look for where it's already started. It's less work on you. And if it isn't started, think about how much it matters to you, and then go start it. And so Facebook, Instagram meetup. There should be groups that are there. Then the next thing is there a bigger organization? So I'm a big fan of Doctors Without Borders. The idea of like helping people with their medical needs. I mean, in a different life, I would have been a doctor. In this life, I avoid hospitals at all costs. But I mean, but what they do is amazing. So I remember just reaching out to the Doctors Without Borders organization. You look them up, see if there's a chapter in your area. In Los Angeles, there is. Yeah. And they just needed help. This is early, 2001, 2002. They need help stuffing envelopes. They need help. It's just administrative stuff that anybody can do. But by going there and helping, you're getting to interact with the staff and you get to meet them. And you're part of helping an organization that you believe in do more good. And I have found brainless work is the best way to meet people. It's like what I was saying before about, with the food, the food bank, right? Of just assembling the food on the different pallets, because you get a chance to just hang out with people and just chat while you're working, and nobody's mad at you for talking. Yeah. And then from that, you realize what are the other things these people are involved with. And so much of it is finding your community. So what I say to somebody, if tomorrow you move to Portland or Denver or Los Angeles, go on Meetup, it's free. Go on Facebook, go on Instagram, and just do searches for the kind of things that you're interested in. And it could be hiking. If you like hiking, find a hiking group. And then when you go hiking, tell people in that hiking group, hey, I've been really trying to figure out how to volunteer and help, animals at a sanctuary, or how to help, elderly people at an elderly center, or how to help, orphans, whatever it is. Start telling other people what you're looking for, because you're letting other people who are locals help you. And I also am just a believer in, this is casual dating, this isn't marriage. So when people find an organization, you don't fully commit before you've gone there once. Do help for a day, help for an hour. And if you just don't like it, if you think the person running it is a little too dictator, or there's no air conditioning on, it's like 98 degrees in there, and you don't like, so don't commit to doing a 1-year internship somewhere. Just go once, see if you like it, see if you like the people, and if you like it, then decide, okay, I'm going to commit more. Because again, it goes back with the yes and sort of principle of like, yes, I want to help, and I'll decide how much I want to help after I help once. Because I know for me, one of my failings for sure in my early activism is I committed a lot to organizations that are good organizations, but they weren't my passion. Like in college, we were volunteering with Salvation Army. Well, there's a lot of people helping feed people at Salvation Army. And, but you look 30 years later and I'm helping with a food bank because it feels different to me, because these are healthy meals that, these are vegan meals, which is in alignment with my value system. And I don't just want to feed people, just food to have food. I want them to have healthy food if we can do that. And the same thing, like whenever we worked with like elderly communities that had speech issues, I just did not do well with people I couldn't communicate with. And I don't do well with like really young children who are, babbling. So you just figure out what group do you do best with. And then
just like you do in life anyway. It's just how we are in life. That's where we
these animal sanctuaries, they need people to help clean the barn or help walk dogs. That's just not what I'm good at. I can do it for a day, but I'm not going to enjoy it. Where if they say to me, hey, can you help us for the next month and putting together this fundraiser and help, introduce us to social media stars and celebrities, I could spend 1,000 hours doing that and be so much happier than spending 6 hours.
But you didn't know that until you did those other things, until you walked dogs, until you volunteered. You have to do it a few times. But what you're talking about has been principally about volunteering. And obviously people need to make a living and need to have the time to do it. So these same principles apply when you're looking for work, if you're looking to commit yourself to working for the environment. And it's a great way to get a permanent job is by volunteering. And I've done that a number of times in my life. And it's the greatest entree into an organization, because you're not making much of a commitment and you're finding out if it's something you really want to be around.
You're totally right. And then there's a group that does something that's even more of a match of what you want to do than the first group. And then you realize, okay, well, let me go volunteer there. And I think so much of life is us figuring ourselves out and figuring out, are you a morning, afternoon, evening person, and working and volunteering that kind of matches your body clock the best you can. And then also, there's people I know that are, they could work for 20 straight hours. They're happy. There's other people, they need breaks built in throughout the day. It's just really figuring ourselves out, figuring out the kind of work. I have a good friend, Josh Goldstein. He loves transporting animals. So if an animal is going from a veterinary clinic to a sanctuary, he'll do that. Sometimes people will find like an injured animal in a park. So
Sure.
They'll call him and he'll pick them up. But generally it's from vet clinic to sanctuary, and he can't do it enough. Like, he just loves it, and he realized, okay, it's not. The organizations might pay him a little bit of money. They'll reimburse him with gas. It wasn't enough to turn it into a job, but then he got a full-time job elsewhere. Then he would do this as a volunteer activity on the weekends because it's again. It's something that the animal advocacy movement needs. They need people to help transport animals. He's transported a little pig before. And I said, how did a pig fit in your car? He's like, they're in a little crate.
This is all in his car? I'm picturing
that's what I would have thought too.
Of some kind.
And he said the pig was really small. And I was like, well, let the pig know it's the last time you're transporting the pig. Because in the next month or two, like, that pig's out. The pig will have to drive the car, and they'll have to transport you. It'll be bigger than you are, Josh. So I think it's that whole thing of like, find your niche. And then the other thing, which you brought up a great point, is when you volunteer, it can turn into a job. It may not. So make sure you're sustaining yourself. So make sure you are making money doing other things. Or if you are only volunteering, don't volunteer 1,000 hours, because it's going to cost you gas money and time and food and everything else.
And you burn out. You'll get resentful. I have definitely put myself in positions like that where I, get fussy because I'm just overdoing it. I don't know how to say no, or haven't known how to say no. So you got to set your boundaries too, because with volunteers, everybody needs volunteers all the time. There's never enough. So people will take as much as you'll give. So you have to set your own boundaries and say, I've got 2 hours, I've got 1 minute.
And not feel bad, because if you leave, it's exactly what you said.
Right.
The 2 hours you gave them is 2 hours more than they would have got otherwise. Right. And an extra 6 hours.
And your friend might come with you.
If you can do it. But if you can't do it, and I see almost every time volunteers never stay as long as they said they would. They always stay longer. They're always there an extra hour, an extra 2 hours. They're running late for whatever the next thing is. They always want to do more. But I always say, don't miss your job interview. Don't miss your job. Like, if you're working at a restaurant, don't miss your restaurant job because you're volunteering, because we need you to be able to continue to live.
You have to take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. Right. So that's, but that really would be my advice, is for people to find what resonates with them. And a lot of people have come to me and said, hey, I want to work from home. How do I do this or that? And I said, organizations always can use help, whether it's research, helping with their Google Docs, their database, it's online social media stuff. Like, it's whatever you can do. And then as they teach you when you're applying for a job, is also true in volunteering. I've never met anybody that knows how to do Microsoft Access, but everybody has on their resume. I think I met one person. They know Excel, Access, PowerPoint, Word. Yeah. If somebody asks you, do you know how to do it? Say, no, but I'm happy to learn. And then they'll teach you. And then once they taught you how to do whatever the volunteer activity is, I didn't know how to put together events at all. Like, when I was in college, we got the venue for free. So I didn't have to book a venue. And the PA system was free. Well, when I moved to LA and I was helping put events together, I had to do A to Z, where it's like, it's the microphones, it's the finding the venue for charities. But after you've done it a couple of times, it becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. And the reality is, nobody is qualified for life. This as a mom, there's no schooling or training to be the best parent you can be. It's on the job training. Hopefully people,
because everything changes constantly. Technology changes.
And you got some window into it, right? If you had a sibling or friends that had a child, but it's not the same until you're actually in the pilot seat. And when you're in the pilot seat, it's you drive in a race car and it's out of control sometimes, but you do the best you can.
And it's going to a new place every single day.
And it has nothing to do with you, right? The charity or the child, or
you have to
or
be
the
flexible.
Animal that's the dog that's like moody that day. It may have nothing to do with you, so you just go with it and say like, oh. So I think that's so much of it. But I feel like the heartbeat of the social good world. I see it in politics on both the Democrat and Republican side. It's volunteers. It's people who believe so passionately in what they believe in, and all the faith communities. It's people that believe in what they believe in, and the vast majority are not compensated for what they believe in, but they keep doing it because they're trying to change the world for the better through their lens. So, yeah.
Which is actually something that you're working on now too. I don't know if you want to talk about projects. I don't know what all you're involved in now. I know that's one thing, you're doing podcasts.
Yeah, so I've interviewed people from the right politically, the left politically, and it's a conversation series where you're having one person that has one strong opinion on one side, one from the other side, and they just have an hour dialogue about the one topic. And I think as we all know, especially with all the gun violence, why is it the first time that a month passed without a school shooting was COVID? Like, it took a global pandemic for children to be saved at schools, so because the kids weren't going to school. So it's like, well, how do we get people from both sides to sit down and talk about what are sensible and logical things we can do to try to help stop children? And I said to somebody, so much money is spent on the U.S. military. If we have to have 30 police officers surrounding every school, then surround every school. Like, I think it's really inexcusable that children are dying in schools. Like, it's just again, goes back to preventable death. It's so preventable. And then everything about after school programs for kids and mental health for kids. Like, I think our focus is misguided on what we invest in this country. And it really needs to be, we all say we care about young people, but I don't think our resource allocation reflects that at all. Because if it did, we would have music and art and more sports and speech and debate and all that for kids. Like, kids should be able to have after school activities until midnight, really, if they needed it. And we don't do that. They leave school, they go back home, they're latchkey kids. And if their parents are, one single parent or both parents are working, they're raised by the community. And if the community is gangs or the community is their friends who get into trouble, they're going to get into trouble. So, so really our conversation series is, let's tackle all the big issues.
The hard ones, the really dicey ones that's separating America right now.
And have thoughtful people who aren't, like, obviously they're going to get a little frustrated. I'm well aware that's going to happen, but I don't want them to yell and scream. We're not trying to reinvent the talk shows of, I guess the first one was Morton Downey Jr., the talk show host, back in the night, where they'd be yelling at the guest. And
because people then just tune in for the fireworks and not for the discussion. And you're really there to have a rational, hopefully rational and well thought out and well discussed topic of discussion on all these hot issues. And people are so angry about so many things. So I love that you're doing that. And I love that people are willing to come on the show and behave themselves so that they can have a proper dialogue that people can actually get something from, that's not just there for the theatrics. It's what we need. It's what we need everywhere. It's another one of the things that
people
we
from all sides say this and believe this and know this, right? Like, on every side of the spectrum.
But don't do it.
And I think, what's happened a lot of is with social media is we're all in bubbles, right? Like, the way the aggregation, everything works is you're seeing the silos with your friends. And I think I'm so lucky when I get to talk to people that have a 180 degree different perspective than I do, because they challenge you, they make you grow. And one of my closest friends, she always likes to say, Prabhat, I completely disagree with you on that. And I always say, why are we still friends? But we are still friends, because part of it is we don't completely disagree. We just have a nuanced interpretation of the way we view things.
And you have other interests, no doubt, that overlap, because I do have many friends that I'm politically different from, and people are often surprised. They're like, oh my gosh, you're hanging out with so-and-so. They think, I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's how life has always been. We're just getting used to an environment where that's not the case anymore. And to normalize having, like, when I was growing up, we always had political conversations at our dinner table, and intense ones. And at Christmas and Thanksgiving, with the more and more relatives, you get more and more diversity of opinion, to put it mildly. And that was just normal. And I don't see that much anymore. People are actually afraid to bring up indelicate subjects or these, because people are so hostile about them. So if you can normalize that more, bring together people, and we're going to get upset once in a while. We're going to speak louder maybe than is comfortable for some people in the room, but we're going to tackle the issues respectfully. That's everything. I mean, that could help us solve every kind of problem that we're
And I think,
discussing.
and yeah, so much of it too is to be open to where we're wrong. Like I grew up in Oklahoma, and I thought, and this is the 80s, 90s, that there were
Yeah.
police brutality happens sometimes. Sometimes African Americans are shot, but it happens very rarely. It's not that common. And then as I got older, I realized NWA, Public Enemy, they're documentary filmmakers. They were letting us know what was happening regularly in their communities. And people like me were so immune from it because we didn't see it in our neighborhood that we falsely believed it barely happened. When just in the last 2 years, we've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times on video, which means it's happening way more where it's not videotaped. So to me, I said to my friends that are African American, like, I apologize that I didn't understand the plight that your community is going through, and that I viewed it as a lot less of a struggle than it is. And if you're in that and you're experiencing it every day, it's gonna affect your opinion of police. It's gonna affect your opinion of brutality.
Oh my gosh, you don't call them.
Right.
I mean, that's when we're all starting to understand. I mean, I was a diversity trainer in the 90s, and for several years, I had no clue. My niece is African American, and I didn't know until I didn't understand, even though she's grown up. I knew her since the day she was born. I didn't understand until Black Lives Matter what she's going through.
Right.
Like, until she started writing op-eds and writing it out. And I get teary when I think about it, because I'm just like, oh my God, here I am so concerned that I become a diversity trainer, but I still don't have the idea that if you're Black, you don't call the police when you're in trouble, because that will multiply your problems.
Right.
You don't have that privilege. So I think a lot of us have really learned a lot, but again, it just shows us how much we have to go, how far we need to move to fully understand. And it's only through conversation.
And what you said, it's you hearing a first person account from your niece and just realizing that, like, this is somebody you know and love that's dealing with this, and you don't even, those conversations don't always get brought. I mean, I think too, what we see a lot of is people that are in, domestic violence relationships, and like they deal with that, and we don't, we didn't even know they were in that. I've had so many close friends that have talked to me about going through that, and then you think, how did I miss that? Like, I was in this person's life, and I was a good friend to them, but they weren't in a place where they're ready to share it. They had their own fear around it. And then now it's, more directly asking people, do you feel safe in your relationship? Okay, your partner yelled at you in public. Is that a regular occurrence? And if you don't feel safe, what can we do to help you, find that? So
awareness is so big in everything. Well, Prabhat, what is next for you, do you think? Is this podcast that you're doing, is that taking most of your energy?
It's a lot of it, because the plan is we're starting it as podcasts and videos, and it's all through the Real Change Media Center. People can find Real Change Media Center on Facebook. And so that's what sort of where it all comes through. And then the goal is, after, we do more and more of them, it's doing some, in-person events. The thing I'm very leery of is I don't want people to boo and hiss and applaud. I just want them to listen. Like, I want a passive audience the day of the conversation, and an active audience the second the conversation ends. But I don't want an active audience interrupting. Because for me, I recently got to interview Steve Bannon, who's, very conservative, and I'm very much on the liberal side. And we had such a wonderful conversation, and I thought, I'd seen an interview where he's in Oxford and there are protesters outside. And it's like, the best way you can protest somebody is actively work against what they're working for. But the other thing you can do is just, and what he said, I wish the students in Oxford weren't outside protesting. I wish they were in the room and asking me the hard questions and challenging me.
That's good to hear.
And when he said that, I said to people, you guys can hate everything this guy stands for, but he legitimately wants. I asked him some tough questions during our podcast. I think he wants to be challenged. He wants people to understand why he wants the world to be the way he wants the world to be. And the reality is, and
it would be interesting to know. It would be interesting to hear. I would appreciate hearing his what makes him tick, why he supports Trump so strongly, and what all he believes about America. I mean, how can we have a rational conversation or make any progress if we don't actually listen?
And,
So,
and
I
I've
mean,
had friends that said to me, well, why would you put light on somebody that has a different
I
perspective
understand
than you
that
do?
too.
And I said, what I
Right.
believe is the problem isn't that we're putting light on people that we oppose. It's we're not putting enough light on people that we oppose. When you meet people that are Holocaust deniers, I want them to have a spotlight. I want us to hear why they believe what they believe so we can say the Holocaust happened. Like, you cannot deny that millions of people were killed. So
No.
I not only don't want them to be in a corner spouting what they believe, I want to shine the brightest light on them I possibly can have, because I want people to hear
Mm-hmm.
their case and think, does this make sense? Is this rational?
Mm-hmm.
Why did this person come to the conclusion they came to? And what are other things that they're denying that they shouldn't be denying, right? Are they denying
Or to
that
have,
African American people are shot? Are they denying, you know,
well, yes, that is the newest one from Texas.
right,
I read the other day that they're changing the trajectory, the history, basically, that Africans weren't brought to America for slavery. They were just relocated, as many people are forced to relocate in life. And it's just like a complete
right,
undermining of the whole slavery
yeah,
experience. So, you're right. I understand the idea that you don't want to put a spotlight on things that you believe are untrue and harmful, which I think those are. But if you don't, then they just get to speak continuously to the audience, and no one ever challenges them. No one even knows that it's something to question.
right,
The flip side to that, though, of course, is that other people that you agree with have to be able to stand up to that same questioning
right,
and that same exposure and that same light on them. And more, we're going into our own areas where that's not happening. So we both sides, and there's not two sides. There's an
right.
infinite number of sides to everything, and everyone needs to be exposed, not just people we disagree with. We have to also be willing. Everyone has to be willing to say, "Why do you believe that?" Maybe change
Right.
my
And if
mind.
we really
It's
want to
a
learn, like, what is learning about? It's challenging our views. And most of the way it gets challenged is through people we know and trust, and us just giving
mm-hmm,
them a chance to educate us on these issues. And there's
right.
a great documentary Liz Crokin did, called Slave Princess, about conservatorships and Britney Spears. And when you see it, I mean, Liz
Mm-hmm,
Crokin is, a pretty outspoken conservative person. And I tell people, watch this documentary because she gives you a window into child trafficking and how that happens. She gives you a window into,
mm-hmm.
the exploitation of these young celebrities that are in the entertainment industry that are often abused. And I thought, I so
That's
appreciate,
valuable information to
yeah, I
have,
appreciate
right?
what Liz
Yeah,
did. She's putting her own money into
yeah.
this. She's so passionate about what she believes in. And even if I might disagree with her on this or that, a little politically here or there, I appreciate her as a
Sure.
person. And I,
Right.
overall agree with who she is, what she's doing. And I think if we sat down and had lunch, we're probably going to agree on 99.999% of stuff. We might vote for somebody different in every election, but besides who we vote for, we're going to want the world and the society to change in the way we want it
Mm-hmm.
to change. So I think, again, it just,
Well,
on paper, there's people we think we're going to disagree with, but in reality, we are going to agree with them so much more. It's just being exposed to their viewpoint and really listening and having a conversation, as we're doing today.
well,
Yeah.
I'll put that. It's just that we agree on a
Yeah.
lot, so we can't. We'll
Yeah.
find something though. One thing we might agree on is that we need to wrap up pretty soon. We've kind of got a full time, but I'll definitely put the link to that show. It's realtimemedia.com. Definitely
Real
put that
change,
in. Oh,
Real
sorry.
Change Media Center.
Glad we
Yeah,
said it
but
again.
I can find it for you
Oh,
in Facebook, and
yeah,
and then
yeah. We'll put a.
positivetelevision.org is my company, and you can link to that.
Well, can we talk? So let's definitely take a moment to talk about that, because I wasn't sure where it stands. So yeah, this is a huge thing that you started quite a while ago, right?
Yeah,
2013 or something, or was it?
2004. Yeah, 2004. Yeah.
Oh, I had no
Yeah.
idea. Okay, and this is you're
Yeah,
still
so
doing this. So tell us a little bit
so
about
what
that.
positive television is it's what really brought me to California. The idea was, how do you take uh, you know all these charities around the world, and how do you highlight them? So a lot of what I realized back then was it was, attaching a celebrity to them, having celebrity spokespeople. And what's changed in the last 20 years is the new celebrities are these social media influencers, right? The Instagram, Facebook people, Twitch, Twitter, all the different platforms that are there. So what we do is, we'll help produce events for charities, but we'll also try to help them identify who are celebrities that would be great people to help endorse what they do. And it's funny because, I'm involved with all these projects, but when I take a step back, I see how they're all interrelated. So Positive Television is really like about how do you use media to do good, right? Then the Real Change Media Center is how do you do, media, how do you do live events where you're going to create real tangible change, not in our lifetime, but, in the next month. Like, how do you really create real change immediately?
Yeah.
And
tangible. So this Positive Television, it's an ongoing project, and how do people watch it, or how do we get access to it?
So if you go online, it's positive.television.org. So positive.television.org, and there's a whole section with videos that we produced or we collaborated with a bunch of organizations where it's celebrities talking about why they endorse the causes they endorse. So it's a lot of PSAs. What we really wanted was like a centralized hub for inspiring, videos of people talking about why they do good. So, John Goodman did a PSA, and it's, you just go through the list of celebrity after celebrity
I think I saw Moby on one of those, right?
Right, yeah, Moby has done PSAs, and a lot of it's going to be the causes that I hold near and dear, which is animal advocacy and children's rights, helping foster kids. But there's just so many issues, and my real thought has always been, how do you get the maximum number of people to use their voice for good? And sometimes it's the PTA mom that can do a fundraiser that's going to mobilize, 500 people.
Oh, of course.
She's the celebrity in that community. The child who's doing the lemonade stand to, raise money or create solidarity for their classmate that has cancer. There's just so much good that people do. So we just want to centralize it. So that's.
Well, can people get in touch with you if they're interested in having something promoted?
So if they reach out to me, they can text us directly. It's 310-872-0669. Again, 310-872-0669. And then on social media, through Real Change, the Real Change Media Center, they can find that on Facebook, which I can also include all those links for you. Or
Sure, we'll have all the links. Sometimes people like to hear it.
Again, the number's 3.
So I'm glad you provided that.
872-0669. They just shoot us a text. We'll get back to them. And also sometimes people want to be invited to live events. So if they just say, hey, we'd love to be invited. This is a city we live in. Because, so much of what we do is Los Angeles, but we still are doing stuff in other cities as well.
Oh, okay. I'm going to join that list.
Yay.
let me write that down.
It's at Debbie's house.
Well, thank you so much. That's fine. House. I like company.
No, but thank you for what you're doing. I think it's so important to have these kind of outlets for people, and I think they need to be reminded the world is so much better today than it's ever been. There's more media attention, so we think it's worse, but there's never been more thoughtful, more considerate, more action-oriented people than today. Because today we can be sad about a war that's across the globe, where there was a war across the globe 40 years ago. We just didn't know about it. And through our sadness and through our actions, we can take steps to stop these things.
Donations and our activism. Yeah. No, there are more world changers now. And for people to understand that and restore hope, that's a huge part of my motive with this show, is that when you lose hope, you lose everything. You just can't motivate yourself to go make change. If you think climate change is we're doomed, and you think there's no hope, you won't take action. But when people understand that there is hope, and hope is contagious, so we inspire one another. And so I do think it's really important to get the word out through Positive Television, through How We Change the World podcast, and any way that anyone is trying is a value.
And I encourage everyone to post nice things on their social media. Post a good story, or
there's a nice,
or do something nice for a stranger for a day, and then encourage others to do the same. Because that's the ripple effect when we see kindness.
Keep it going. You keep it going. All right, Prabhat.
Hugs
to you. It's
thank
so good
you
to see
you, Debbie, and thank you to your whole crew and everybody that helped out today. Thank you.
All right, take care. We'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone.
Keep on doing what you're doing.
Till the day I'm gone, I'll be here
forever.
Thank you, Debbie.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.